everyone. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. I'm here, Richard Carlton at fmtraining.tv, where every day at 1 o'clock Pacific time, we are covering the Claris FileMaker platform. We're talking about all sorts of great topics, a lot of things we can pass little nuggets of knowledge along to you. A lot of you interact with us on Discord or on YouTube or Twitch, and you give us little nuggets of knowledge back, which really helps me sometimes, because sometimes I might be off just a smidge or I haven't thought of something. And so you interacting with me is why this live stream is so great. It's not just pre-recorded, it's live. I'm actually here right now. Even if you're watching me on YouTube a year from now, I'm live. Just pretend I'm live. It makes the conversation much more fun that way. All right, cool. So today is going to be covering 2 days of conversation about FileMaker Go. And it's an interesting conversation. So the way it's going to work, for those of you paying attention, is that I'm going to start off with kind of framing the conversation. There's some important nuggets in here to think about. Once we're done, I'm going to transfer screen share to Margaret, who's going to walk us through. She did this. She did this work. I kind of waved my hands in the air, but she did most of all the hard work on this. And we're going to go through the discoveries we made and the things we learned along the way. So, including a couple bugs that we found with Claris FileMaker Go. I always say that. I have to put Claris in there. Those are bugs that are getting reported to Claris for remediation, I hope. So let's talk about this. So the mobile app angle. So the idea is, when do you need to roll with FileMaker Go, right? And I want to frame the conversation. If we have questions along the way, hey, everyone, frame the conversation that, we'll get into it because I kind of covers this. So I always specify that when I am talking to people, I am talking to, a new person, intermediate person, a senior person. What is so funny, and this is almost universally true everywhere, is that I might say I'm targeting an intermediate developer. And then I have someone the other day, and if I'm not picking on the person, but if we see them here, it's interesting because they say, well, I'm doing all this advanced curl API action. I'm like, well, that's definitely senior stuff. And then we find out that the curl API person has never even heard or seen PSOS. And I consider PSOS kind of this intermediate level skill set because it doesn't really require any writing of code, right? And so there's a lot of people out there who have discontinuity in knowledge. I'll call it that. So you're a senior engineer, or maybe mostly a senior engineer, but there's a couple low-level things you don't know, you've never done before. But I'm not saying that I'm not talking down to anyone if I say you're intermediate. I'm just saying that I'm talking about people who probably aren't doing a lot of code by hand in a text editor or like a visual, like JavaScript or curl or things like that. Those are typically senior things. So the target today is people who are intermediate, but there are going to be people out there who are senior who've never done FileMaker Go and they don't know the considerations. So today we're going to be talking about the considerations for a Big Valley and why we did what we did. I think the considerations are, the front part of this is as important as the back end coding part of it, okay? What we will work on doing is giving you a copy. Well, it's going to be hard to create a sample of this for everyone. We could probably find the mobile app for them, Margaret, and give it to them, but that's only part of it, right? So what we want to do is make sure that they see it in the screen, give you the answers that you need. It's really not complicated. It's mostly just having the discovery of the interaction between a mobile app and a desktop app, etc. So theoretically an intermediate level developer today, maybe high intermediate, that kind of thing. I'm going to move forward here. We're going to talk about the overall needs. So first off, let me state the business case for this. The business case is you have mechanics, people who are doing physical, what I would kind of generally loosely call blue collar, but that's really misleading because I wouldn't call someone who's out on the floor working on a Boeing 747 or 787 necessarily a blue collar worker, but yeah, it could be that kind of thing. So the person who's not necessarily a professional programmer, they're doing physical labor, auto mechanics, vehicle mechanics, construction, heating and air systems, plumbing systems, anything physical, right? Even people doing maintenance on freeways, like a Department of Transportation worker that's filling potholes on the freeway. This is the same kind of conversation that would apply to that. So it's pretty universal. It's kind of cool because it's about helicopters, and I love helicopters, but it's not really a helicopter thing, right? So let's talk about this. So here's the overall need. The people who are out in the field need to take photos of the project issues they're running into. One, that's a statement of fact. One. Two, statement of fact, iPhones take better photos than desktop or laptop computers. So do SLR cameras and other stuff like that. However, most people don't run around with an SLR camera around their neck when they're working and getting greasy and doing stuff. So, but almost all these people have a phone in their pocket. So there's your thought process. So you have a need, and the people have a device in their pocket. Okay, so let's move forward from that. So let's talk about this real quick for those of you who are fairly new. FileMaker, the Claris FileMaker platform. This is the core of the platform. You have FileMaker server up here. It's going to interact. The application we build, the .fmp12 is an extension for a database application. It's a physical file that lives on the FileMaker server. The server then will share or host and give the necessary bits of the application down to clients who need access to that. This could be a desktop or laptop, Mac or Windows user. This can be a person. This is a phone right now. Could be an iPad, either one. This is FileMaker Go. Over here in the office, could be in the office or out of the office at Starbucks or wherever. Once again, laptop or desktop, and it could be Mac or Windows. So this is basically Pro, Go, and you could do WebDirect as another one, but we're not really doing WebDirect today. So moving forward, FileMaker Go, things to think about. Works great on iPhone or iPad. When FileMaker, now this is a little bit of inside baseball, and it's important in this conversation. If you're the consultant talking to the customer, whoever the customer is, whether you work for them or they work for you or whatever, there's people that are not, they're going to use FileMaker, but they're not the people who can build it, right? And so years ago, when FileMaker Go first came out, businesses had no idea what to do with it. They literally had no clue. Very much like the Apple Pro Vision goggles that are $4,000, right? They're cool, they're neat. What the hell do we do with it, right? Besides watch movies, right? It's a hell of a way to watch movies. And so what do you practically do with it that you couldn't do another way? Everyone's still trying to figure this out. That's why I haven't bought one yet. It's a $4,000 toy that is really cool, but I can't turn it into revenue, so I haven't got one yet. It's kind of the chicken or the egg deal, right? So that's the same problem that happened with Go, almost identical problem. So the people build this amazing tech. Businesses are like, what the hell do I do with this? Especially in the world of FileMaker. If I was doing an aviation training, putting the goggle on, shooting an auto rotation with a helicopter where you roll the engine off, you glide the helicopter. It's a very precise thing that has to be done. It's not terribly difficult if you practice it, but if you screw it up, people die. So it's kind of like if you're learning to be a doctor or a dentist, you could see some sort of surgical procedure, and you could witness it in these glasses as a training exercise. Pretty neat. So then a number of years later, the opposite happened. Businesses figured out that this Go thing was cool, and the first thing that came out of their mouths, and it still happens once in a while, is like, hey, everything that we have in Pro, I want it on Go. And the reality is neither one of these answers is correct. The first one is people don't know what it'll do. The bottom one is people think they know what it does, and they want everything in there. The problem is that's a road to pay. It's not good. The happy medium is in between here. So that's where we get to this next thing. The reality, right, of course, the 80-20 rule. 80% of your users will only use 20% of the features you built. And so if you build 10 reports and a couple data entry screens, your users will use 2 of those reports. Statistically speaking, they will actively use 2 of the other 8 reports someone thought were really neat, really important, and then, no one uses it because they realize in retrospect that wasn't really what they needed, or it was redundant or something, right? So the loading of the 20% of essential features is kind of what you would want to target for your mobile devices, partly because of the challenge of working with mobile devices. The screen real estate is really small, right? Little tiny screen versus big screen, right? How do you pack 100% of that application, a Pro application, into a tiny screen and make it look beautiful and wonderful? And so where Nick Hunter doesn't want to vomit on you. What 20% are essential? That's the question you have to ask yourself. So now what I'm going to talk generically about things, but then we're going to talk about Big Valley, okay? Because they're really an interesting operation. They are very much old school. And I'm going to move this out of the way. Maybe I'll move this up here out of the way. They're very much old school to the point where the other day they had a card style window and they couldn't find the little window closing function in it. And the CEO there, who's just come up on 70 years old, got pissed because he got stuck on a card style window and couldn't get out of it. And I'd sent him an email warning him that this could be a situation. There's a little checkbox in the top left-hand corner, but he only read the first 5 words of my email, didn't read the whole email, and he's using it. He gets pissed off with it. I go down there last week. He pulled the cord out of the computer. He just ripped the power cord right out of the back of that thing because it pissed him off so bad. So I'm dealing with some people who have definite opinions about how the world should operate or work. My job is not to educate them if they're in error. My job is to kind of get FileMaker to fit in their world if at all possible. And one of the things that I'm going to do today or tomorrow is to make sure that that card style window has the escape key programmed on the script trigger and also a big hairy button at the bottom says save, so they can press that. It doesn't save anything, but it gives them that because they're used to saving. You put a big button at the bottom that says save, and save all it does is close the window, right? Commit the record, close the window. So adjusting your messaging to your customers. If as a FileMaker developer, most likely you do some consulting. It's where you provide an educated opinion, and your customer, if they value you, should listen to what you tell them. Okay. And so what you want to do is adjust what you're suggesting to better match their worldview of things, right? As a younger audience or older audience, very important. Does the audience actively use mobile phones? If so, for what? Right? So like I have one daughter who's tried to edit 15, 20-minute long videos on iPhone, and then it would crash and piss her off. So that's someone who's very, very, very comfortable trying to use a tiny screen to do complex things. In a mobile world, what do they do with their mobile device? Doesn't matter with Android or phone, whatever, iPhone. But what do they do with their desktop? And so my audience here, very specifically, has dirty hands and they're crawling around the aircraft, things like that. So let's talk about this not for everyone. So BVA, the people at BVA have personal iPhones. They seem to mostly all have iPhones. They use it to instant message. They share photos, share videos, little memes and stuff. That's the extent of their existence. They don't do any heavy lifting with the mobile device. They don't do data entry, things like that. So what you're having to do is frame this conversation to fit their world better. Does that make sense? And so these are the same people where I went back and did the on-screen notifications that pop up at the top to alert them that things are going on. That's something that's should be for everyone. And the other issue was with the record locking. One of the people in the out on the shop floor would be editing a record. He'd get up, claw on top of a helicopter. The cursor is still editing inside a field. The CEO in the inner office couldn't get to the record, and he got pissed off. That said that no junior mechanic should block the CEO from doing their job. And it was so funny or interesting to have a conversation saying that they're totally correct, and then at the same time say Claris doesn't give a shit, right? Because they've never engineered the product to time out and to allow us to remove someone. That's where the monkey bread thing comes in. That's why we're so tight with Christian Schmidt at Monkey Bread. We use his stuff all the time. And so it helps solve these problems that come up, and one of which is customizing FileMaker to the expectations within organization, so that the CEO of the organization doesn't have to have some lowly entry-level mechanic lock him out of the database, right? So very, very interesting. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run through this real quick. This is very shortly. So this is this is their PC workstation. This is an actual screenshot. They were using, actually it's real, they were using it. And normally they would be working on the helicopter. They have this little rolly cart they roll around with, okay? And it's on a big, long extension cord. There's a battery backup on it. It's a Windows PC because they like Windows PCs. I don't care. And as they roll it around, there's like this 100 and some odd foot extension cord. So they roll it. They're going to roll it over here next to the helicopter, then roll it over here and work on this one. And there's 2 or 3 of these things rolling around. And so they sit down and we'll do data entry. However, the issue becomes is that they need to document specific issues that come up. Like someone says they take their car to the Toyota dealer and the air conditioning doesn't work, or the heater doesn't work, or whatever doesn't work. And so a good mechanic would take a picture of the little split in the hose, so you can see the split in the hose. They could add that to the document, the paperwork, so you get kind of a photo evidence of what's going on, right? With this, it's even more critical because what ends up happening with these guys and gals, is that they're on top of scaffolding, right, working on this thing. And so they're not down at the cart. And so for them to get a photograph, I mean, we actually thought about a lot of things like, hey, what if we took a camera, a little like USB camera, and it was on like a 30-foot USB cable or wireless maybe, and you went up there and aimed it around and and then have a button to take a picture, and like, well, but they got these phones and the phones are such a good camera. So that was one thought. And then the other thought that came up, so here they're on top of this thing, that's got to be about 300 or 400 pounds there. And they're lowering this thing with a giant hoist down on the top. And so if his phone's in his pocket, he has to get a picture. He can whip it out and take the picture on his phone, right? So that makes perfect sense. But one of the problems was if he just takes it right now, it goes into his photo gallery. And then he has to remember that when he sits down later, that he should take it out of his photo gallery and put it into FileMaker. And that's an extra step for your staff that's just another reason for them not to do it. You're throwing up points of friction, right? We always talk about friction points, and Claris is talking about this a lot at the keynote, reducing points of friction, right? The ultimate source of friction is a knife, right? You're trying to do stuff on it, right? And it's like, you know, so you don't want friction points. If it's nice and smooth and happy, then the users will use it. If it's nice and smooth and rounded and happy, it's great. And that's a very important thing. So here's another one. So you're outside running a test on the aircraft, and they're walking around this thing, and when the jet engine's running and the blades are turning, it's a very, I don't want to say dangerous, but it's very unforgiving. It's like going out in the ocean and you don't know anything about how the sea works. It will kill you in short order. This thing has spinning parts up here, spinning parts on the tail. If you're inside the aircraft, it's safe, safe, safe. If you're walking around the outside, it's less so, and the person has to be focused. And so the question is, do you want them, while this stuff is whirling around and spinning around, do you want them to roll out a cart on a long extension cord, and there's a tail rotor over there spinning, and run the risk of rolling it into that or walking into it or something bad like that, right? All it takes is a moment of inattention. So these folks are very safety oriented when parts are turning, okay? And so that's a very big piece. So if he sees something up here in the jet engine, we're going to see that momentarily, if he pulls a phone out of his pocket and snaps a picture, that's a lot easier than rolling a cart around with a computer on it, right? Makes sense? And so meanwhile, you're in the aircraft, things are going on, and they're discussing, well, the temperature is too low or too high or whatever's going on, and this thing is burning. This thing costs like $1,000 an hour. It's stupid. And so they don't want to sit there and have you fumbling around with a laptop computer in the helicopter, dragging the cord around, flipping it open. They just, this was taken from a phone, and it was just hit record, go, right? Because they don't want to waste time. They want to document it and be done with it, okay? And then, of course, then you're inside. This thing is spinning at 1 billion miles an hour. This is the jet engine. So they're in here. You don't want cords. You don't want them focused on, and this thing is making a racket. And that's literally the jet engine of what's going on there. So the thought processes we had, besides the frog that went splat, right? This is what we came up with. And this was the thought process. So we have FileMaker server. I'm going to move myself out of the way. We have FileMaker server, and it has the BVA database in it. People are using it on the little carts running around. Maybe the guy in the office and the secretaries, people's in the office, administrative assistants, they're logging into it. Then there's this iPhone. The thought process, and we're going to walk through this with code now momentarily here, but I'm trying to frame this conversation. You log in with your phone, and it's logged in, and you can't really see it right here. You'll see it momentarily with Margaret, but you're going to select the project that you're working on, and all it is take pictures. This app doesn't do anything else. So this is an important thing right here. So let me do this real quick so make sure you can see this. So we log in to the main FMP12. There's a single file solution, right? So I'm over here waving my hands. Let me put myself back over here. A single file solution, FMP12 file on the FileMaker server. There, you can log into the file. The startup script says, oh, you're a mobile device, and it takes you to a modified home screen that you can't really see it here, but it's a list view, and it's all the projects, and all it allows you to do is take a picture for the project. So all the features and all the capabilities, we did not reproduce them. All we wanted them to do was be able to whip it out while the blades are turning and take pictures, and then even just put it back in their pocket. And the idea with this is that as they select a project to work on, what ends up happening is that this device then no longer has to be connected in any way. They can run around without an internet connection, okay? Take pictures, take pictures, take pictures, take pictures, okay? And keep taking pictures, which means that there's a local app that we have to install on here, a local FMP12 file. So now we're talking 2 FMP12 files, right? The one's still running on the server. We're not currently talking to it. We don't have to talk to it. we're running the local one here. They take pictures. When they're done taking pictures, you press a button and it goes to the local file goes up and it sends the images up to the server. And so it's a collection tool. It captures them locally, which provides high speed. The other part of this, which is kind of a thing, what we try to do is have the person take the pictures in the shared application. There is a bug with this, is that if you put a photo in Go, even if the photo is in a global field, Go, and I think Pro for whatever reason, sends the image to the server, which is the whole point of what we don't want to do. When the blades are spinning around, you have to be focused on it. You don't want to take a picture and have it go uploading. Oh, Wi-Fi is marginal. We rolled out of the hangar. We're outside where the blades are. Oh, internet's less performant here. Spinning, waiting to take a picture. Meanwhile, jet fuel's burning, rotor blades are turning. It's a dangerous, outside the helicopter, it's a dangerous place to be. For a mechanic, you got to be focused. They don't want to be wrestling with the technology. But if you just try to connect to the actual hosted application, because of this issue with global fields being sent to the server, and once again, that's not good and it should never happen. But they're not saved to the server, but they get, someone at Claris screwed that up. I'm just going to tell you straight up. Someone screwed it up. Engineering made a mess with that. And so I'm on a mission to get it fixed. That being said, I can't wait for Claris to fix this. I had to find a workaround. So this conversation today is about the workaround. So if you have a local file that only lives on your mobile device and you put photos on it, it's instantaneous. Then when you're ready to go back in the hangar, the blades aren't turning, you walk back in, you tell it to upload, you put your phone down, and you just let it upload at its own speed. So we built all this. We're going to show it to you today. It's not actually that tricky. Most of you could do this, but what I'm saving you, pay attention to this live stream, I'm saving you the discovery moments that you have to discover the hard way, right? Like you learn the hard way. Like, hey, let's just put it in a global and that should work. No, it doesn't work because somehow it goes into this big long pause. You have a 2 megabyte image, should be instantaneously stored in RAM memory or flash memory on the device. It's in a global. No, it parks it on the FileMaker server. Why? I have no idea. So that was a very unsavory, unpleasant discovery to make, right? It's wrong, okay? But it is what it is, so we have to work around it. So Margaret, I'm going to quit sharing here, and you're going to transfer command to you because Margaret's doing the actual demo. She wrote most of this. So I'm going to jump over here to questions that we have. Margaret's going to dive in here. She's
Hello, yes, nope, I'm getting everything. There we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome.
You have FileMaker Pro running on here too, right, Margaret? Yep, good.
Yeah, I do have, no, I haven't opened up BVA yet, but FileMaker Pro is like chugging along. So yeah, basically the answer to we can't actually just have a mobile layout that has global fields on our hosted solution was to make a local file solution. The issue is that we didn't really want to explain to people who don't really use applications that they need to download a local solution. So a big part of the process was getting FileMaker to, which I'm going to pull up in BVA. They go to the mobile app home screen, which I'll pull up here shortly. You can see it. I'll go through like the process on the actual phone itself.
I don't see it, Mark. You're gonna have to go to BVA.
I know. Hold on.
We're on the this is the screen.
This is the desktop home screen. This is a desktop home screen. This is what they see whenever they log into any laptop, desktop computer. In our starting script, which I'm not going to pull up unless I think I really should, there is an identify. It's like a get function, I believe. It's a get device. And if it notices that you are on a mobile device, it will immediately pull you onto the mobile home screen. And this is a really reduced screen. It shows you basically what aircraft are available and therefore which ones you want to take photos for. There is also a update file function because the local file gets updated routinely. But we don't want to have to explain to people how they have to go delete the local file in their FileMaker Go. Basically, the goal here was to make people interact with Go's, I don't know what to call it, toolbars as little as possible because they would find it confusing. So I'm just reconnecting with the file.
Yeah, let's do this once, Margaret. So on the right, Margaret, on the layout behind is what it looks like in Pro, but it's a responsive design. So it auto shrinks and does its thing. So
expands, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do something, which is what we didn't want them to have to do. So therefore you can see the initial install because it's an update. It's not a delete file. Basically, we didn't want to do this. If you have to do this, Launch Center, go back to my apps and go to things that are actually Oops, didn't mean to click
Nope,
that one.
doesn't matter. The point is that for people
Oh,
who
now it's
who
getting
are
mad at
prone
me.
to, yeah, you have to click it, bring it down one.
Where are the toolbars shenanigans? Basically, you don't want them to interact with this. This is painful. Explaining this to anyone who doesn't use phones a lot is going to be a giant pain in the butt. So I'm going to
Good
delete this,
save, good save.
and then we're going to go to what's hosted. So
So
basically, as
we're
long as this file is open automatically, after they open this file, the hosted file, Go is always going to open up to that file, so they don't have to mess with the toolbars or go hang around.
Let me explain this a different way. The local file that we're going to use has to be installed. By default, when they get a phone, it won't be installed. So the main app that's on the server has to look to say, hey, is that local file on the device? And if it's not, hey, throw a dialog and just wait for a moment, right? While we install it, right? So we install it out of a container. Well, Margaret will show you that momentarily, but she's going to press one of these right now. Was it already in there?
I thought I deleted it. I am
I thought you did
confused.
too. Go back and try that again. Well, actually, it was running. Go ahead and close it here. You have to close it here.
Oh, right. You have to. Right. Yep. Okay. That's interesting. We'll do it now because it's deleted. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so you don't have the app. This is what happens. You don't have the app, and this dialog has been sanitized, right? It still says do me. So you hit the button, and what it's going to do is it does an export out of the system, out of the main FMP12 file from the server, installs the local file on the flash documents directory, flash memory of the iPhone. Okay, right? And so then we're on this screen. So the idea is that now we're only using the local file. We don't have to have the served file, so they can run around the helicopter, take pictures or whatever while the blades are spinning of various photos and stuff. And there's a cat, right? So you put the cat in there, you say use photo, and then you take another picture, right? So you keep taking pictures. You're not limited to one picture at a time. Give me a couple more. Well, that's another cat photo. Okay, get going. That's great. And give me one more as well. There we go. So we have 3. So the idea is that you can scroll up and down on these. You can scroll up and down, and then when we're done, you press upload the photos. And this is a script that actually moves the containers to the FMP12 app, right? To the hosted app. This is the sync. Now, a lot of you will have complex apps. You use sync, mirror sync, or something like that from 360 Works. This is rolling your own basic sync. All it is a one-way photo uploader. If all you're doing is that, you don't need to buy a big sync application. Okay, that is essentially the core part of this. Now, the additional part is to show how you would reset. So here's the deal: is that sometimes Margaret will update the mobile app. She updates it. She's going to show it to you momentarily, but she wants to install a new one because remember that she's updated the one that's on the FileMaker server, but the mobile apps are already pre-installed on the flash memory of each phone. So what we have to do is tell the customer, hey, can you do me a favor? Click on the hamburger menu, press the update file button right there. And is that a bug?
No.
Okay,
I
I
probably
want you.
should change the dialog option that I think about it. It runs a loop where it looks for the file, and if it can't find the file after it's deleted the file, it lets you know it's installing the file.
Okay,
So,
yeah. Okay, so yeah, it should tell us that it's going to, yeah, that dialog should be modified a little bit to make it a little more obvious. So that's how we refresh the mobile app. So is there any questions? I'm going to go to YouTube here.
and Ken asked about mirror sync, and someone seconded the mirror sync question. This is not mirror sync. This is PSOS. It's a one-way PSOS because we don't really need anything to be pushed back down to the local file.
Is it actually PSOS? It's not PSOS. It's one way.
I'm pretty is it?
No, it's calling the script.
It might be just be perform script. Okay.
Yeah. It's not PSOS. That's a little slightly
It's just the
misspoken
perform
there.
script.
So let's take a look at this. So why don't you pop that back over to the show them where they stick the file. Then let's walk through the script for them so they can see this.
We're gonna go back to the actual home preferences. So
by the way, this is all built from starting point light 23. Oh, we are real close on starting point 24. For those of you wondering about this, all we did is went through and cleaned up a bunch of bugs and ugliness that was still in the 23 version. We just did a bunch of cleanup, so it's simpler, and that's what'll be the starting point 24.
So basically, the script goes and looks for this particular what?
There's the username password on screen. That's fine. We'll have to
Well,
change
I
that.
don't. I'm going to
How
bring up
about
the
you?
scripts.
Just
They can
jump
just
the
look at the
scripts.
scripts, and,
Yeah,
and
all
we can
sorts of
tell them
crazy.
what's happening.
Mm.
Basically, that shiny little screen that you're going to forget you all ever saw has a container that has a FMP12 file in it. The script essentially looks for that FMP12 file and see if it is located in the documents directory. Either actually, not that it, for testing purposes, it checks in desktop, but generally it's looking for the documents directory on the iPhone. And if it can't find an iPhone, then it installs. So script workspace. Ba, 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 ba. Yeah, no, this is a mess in progress. Is there a way to close? No, okay. So basically, this is the one that we want to look at. I'm going to actually go ahead and install the file because half the scripts needed are actually located in the mobile file. So half that, like, there's about, I would say
You
what?
want to stop sharing your
Maybe.
screen briefly here? You want me to
Okay,
do that for
sure.
you? Stop sharing your screen, then you can do that real quick.
Basically, because this is a multi-file solution, essentially, uh, half the scripts that you need are located in the um, hosted file, and half the scripts that you need are located in the local file, which if I pull up, man, I hate Zoom shenaniganery sometimes because it gets right in my way. Script workspace. So you will notice everything is in the 900. There's 900 to 910 over in the hosted file, and then 950 through 970 over in the local file. So let me pull up 900. It's the very first. So this 900 is the very first script that activates, and it's the very first script that activates when you press the blue camera button over here. So if you hit this button, this is the very first script that activates. And basically,
Mark, can you zoom in at the monkey bread and hit the plus?
this is my commenting. My commenting, according to Richard, is questionable, which he's probably right about. So we're gonna live with that. Set error capture on. Basically, it double checks that we're on the correct context. So if by some miracle you manage to activate the script, not on the home mobile screen, it makes sure to dump you on it. And then it is a you're going to see a lot of PSOSs. The PSOS is all of our audits. So there is a ton of audits for this process because as it's a multi-file solution, it's kind of a precarious process. I created this and I've also spent most of my time coding for BVA fixing this because of its nature. So there's a lot of audit trails you can figure out where things go wrong. So the very first thing it wants to do is it sets two variables. The first variable it sets is the ID work order. Basically, when we click a very specific aircraft, we want to make sure that all the photos we take are appended to that aircraft. We don't want the photos floating off in space and not appended to any ID. So we make sure that the work order ID is passed along inside of a global variable. And then the second variable is identifying the path to documents. I think we use a get function. Yeah, we use get document path. We use get documents path because obviously the document path is going to be different for every iPhone. So, or every thing, there's no set path that you can just paste in there because it needs to find it first. And then we tell it what it's looking for, BVA mobile FMP12. So then we do perform script. And perform script is interesting. Perform script can allow you to perform script from either inside your own file, or if your file has the permissions for it. I think that somewhere in privileges, though actually I think these files are open. So if you have access to these files on the server, you can make it do anything you want. But it basically looks for the file. So this is the BVA aviation file that I could theoretically go perform some other script inside of this hosted file, or I can look for a script inside of the local file. And then I tell it to do 951, which is basically the startup script for the local file. So first, it's a loop. You'll notice that this is in a loop. Now, why is it in a loop? Because a lot of the time when you say, oh, go perform 0951, the script is going to go like, what? We don't have this local file. What are you talking about? So it tells you, you don't have the app. So basically, if it can't find the file, it's like, you don't have the app. So basically, then it exports the field contents. It takes that container, which you are not going to go look at anymore, in the preferences, and it exports it directly into the path to documents variable, which is the variable that grabbed, again, what the documents path is with the get function. We do an audit to make sure that happens. And then basically it's successful or it failed. If it failed, we don't know why. Let's basically go call RCC. and let us know what happened, but it loops. So the reason why we have it in a loop is that when it hits the end and it's actually installed the file, the loop goes back and it tries to run 951 again. If the file has been successfully installed, 951 will run. And so we pull up 951. 951. Now this again is the script step in the local file that is catching the parameters from the hosted file, which is the ID. I think we added two. Yeah. ID work order mobile and the ID and number. So these are the two parameters that it catches from the hosted file. And this is what is dropped into a field and also kept inside global variables inside the local file so that every time that you take a picture, it knows to append that ID or that ID number to it, which matches the ID in the hosted file. So that way all the pictures are attached.
Okay. So questions along the way. So the short version of this, that when we start the process, once again, the previous script was to make sure that the application was actually properly installed. That was the first thing in the loop. The second thing is then if it is installed, to pass it a couple parameters. We're only going to take pictures on one project at a time. That's the essential idea. So you're going to identify a project, you'll get those parameters, you take pictures. When you're done with taking picture of that project, you're going to hit the upload process, which you'll see momentarily. One thing you said, Margaret, I was wondering about, you said that the file is unlocked. I don't believe the file is unlocked. I'm pretty sure there's security on the file. Okay.
No, I was referring to, never mind. It doesn't matter. I don't know how to cohesively explain it.
There's extended privileges.
Yes, there's an extended privileges, and it allows whatever the extended privileges on this file are open so it can access other files, interact with other files.
Okay, backup. So yes, so that it's not really relevant to the conversation. However, we've talked about another security where you can have a multi-file solution, only trust the other certified files that are part of that collection, right? We haven't locked it down. So theoretically, if you could build your own little mobile app, then find a way of getting onto the FileMaker server and injecting it into the container, which would be impossible without the credentials, then you could have your own version of the file that you might trust, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of when you say it's unlocked, Mark, you start alarming people. So I would not choose to use those words. You have to be very careful with that. So the security is not bolted down as tightly as possible. If we had nuclear missiles in here, stealth bomber information, the president's movements for the next three weeks or something like that, then that would be super secure, right? A little different when you're just taking pictures of a oil leak out of the bottom of an engine. So step one is make sure the file's there. Step two, pass parameters. Then what do we do, Margaret, if you want to pick up the conversation there?
Parameters are passed basically to these two global variables. One is the work ID and the other one is the N number, which is an aircraft specific thing. Okay, then we enter a find. So basically, I haven't added this button yet, frankly, but the photos exist on the local file in perpetuity currently until the file is updated, which then blows out all the photos. So there's going to be a lot of already uploaded photos on the local file. So
Can I help with this? Can I help with this?
Yes.
That's actually two different issues here. On the mobile device, you have to think about all the permutations that people have. So they have a mobile device, they're taking pictures, the blades are turning, and then they put it in their pocket, and then you're done. And then they take a call from the girlfriend. Then they take a call from your daughter or the vet or a doctor's appointment, or they go home. Then they come back to the app the next day. And if they jump into the app, what's going to happen is it's going to identify any photos that have not been uploaded. That's what this is right here. The goal is to find photos that have not been uploaded to the server because you never finished the process. Remember, you take pictures, then you hit upload when you're ready. It's basically synchronize it now. Well, 99% of the time, people are not going to follow, your users are not going to follow that formula. They're going to do whatever the hell they want, which mostly means they're not going to synchronize it. Then they're going to go, God, I swear, they're on the PC, I swear I took pictures of this. And the photos are still in the iPhone, never been synchronized. So that's what this does. So as you drop in here, it's going to find the other photos they haven't synchronized and put them in the list view. What Margaret's talking about is that once you upload them, we change their status to upload complete. If I'm gonna drop out of here, I'm gonna let you zoom in, Margaret. If you want to zoom in on this code, please for us again. We can see it's gonna do a search for upload completed, flag is 1, right? And basically it's gonna find all the omitted records. Essentially, it's finding all the photos that have not been uploaded. So you see them on your list immediately, knowing that you have stuff to upload. Then you can add additional photos or press the button to upload. Margaret's comment was that once it is uploaded, the question is, what do you do with the photos that have been theoretically uploaded? As a developer in development mode, I am nervous about deleting data in general. And I wanted to make sure this process was reliable before I told this script to go ahead and delete the photos out of the system. So every photo is a record, okay, pretty simple. And when you're on the iPhone, you're seeing a list view, okay? And so it's pretty straightforward. So what we do is I just, for the time being, omit them out of the found set, which means that your local file could grow and grow and grow. But in development mode, I'm more concerned about the customer accidentally deleting essential photos and me not being able to go get them back. Even though the customer did it to themselves, it might be a bug that I made. And so I don't want to be yelled at for losing essential, federally regulated images, right? Those are, it's like the Boeing, if Boeing had this system where they bolted that door on that 737 MAX 9 and they took photos of that, of them doing that, then they submit their system, then that would all be part of the documents for the investigation for that accident, right? Or incident. It's not an accident, it's an inadvertent, the airplane got turned into inadvertent extra ventilation for all the passengers who were claustrophobic. They got more air in the airplane. So, but that photo is a legal thing, right? That's why we want to be careful with that. So once you had this solution going, you had confidence in it, you could have it find all the photos that were maybe older than 30 days and delete them or something out of the local file. Okay, makes sense? Questions? Are the photos compressed somewhere before sending? No, FileMaker doesn't really give you that capability, right? The goal was that it could be slow and painful. It generally doesn't take too long. It takes like a minute to, or whatever, to upload 20 photos. But you have decent internet. But FileMaker, the core product, doesn't give you those kind of controls. If you want to compress an image and do things like that, you need to use the Monkey Bread plugin. The Monkey Bread plugin cannot be installed on FileMaker Go. Plugins don't work in Go. So it's one of those kind of like a moment where it's kind of a tough situation. So instead of me trying to be cute with the plugin, I simply told the customer, when it gets that dialog screen, I said, are going to upload now, put your phone down and don't touch it so I can finish the process, is what I said. I actually said some more spicy things than that. Margaret cleaned those out because we decided that that wasn't good for, a live stream. But I told the people here, put your phone down, don't touch it while I upload. It takes 30 seconds, a minute, and they're all done. But they can't just say upload and then flip over to TikTok to see the latest video or something, right? So you don't want that. Now let's talk about the upload process, the important nugget of the upload process, right? Because that was the one where we had the base 64, right? Remember that?
Yeah, if we can cover that in 8 minutes.
Sure we can.
Okay. So this is basically the script that triggers when the upload is returned to the file. So basically you're done taking photos, and again, it enters find mode. It looks for things that have already been uploaded and make sure that they are omitted. If there are no new photos, you will get an error. Sorry, there are no new photos to send. So you've taken nothing. And then it exits the script.
Okay.
So then it goes to the very first record of the found set to make sure that there's an upcoming loop and that the loop actually gets everything. It double checks that we are on the correct layout. Again, there's no other layout really available. Well, actually, there's two. That's a lie. There are two layouts in this local file, so make sure that you somehow have not managed to land and die on the other one. And it takes you back to the loading screen. Oh, no, never mind. Nix everything I said over the past 20 seconds. I misread my own thing. This takes you to the layout that syncs. So I'm going to actually pull that up directly so you can see what I'm talking about.
I was confused by that, Margaret. Why don't you bring that up? Yeah.
They have very similar names. So, document loading screen. So, this is the screen that shows up when it is actually uploading, and it sits on the screen until the upload is done, so they know that something is actually happening.
Yes, it's not a progress bar. You could, of course, do a progress bar, but I was doing this initially just to get it to work right. It's like what we say about novice users, just trying to get it to work reliably. Then we'll go back and beautify it, right? Normally this would say, you're uploaded 1 of 5 or 2 of 5 or 3 of 12 or whatever, right? And as it goes, it refreshes this count, right? Mark, go back to that code. Yeah, so there's some variables right there. I mean, duh, very basic stuff, right?
So yeah, that is the variables. Yeah, no, sorry about the confusion. But yeah, it sits on that layout. You don't technically need to have it sit on a layout for it to do an upload, but it lets people who are watching and notice things actually happening and the screen isn't just flashing at them.
Yes. Otherwise, you just get flashy stuff. So yeah,
Then it sets two new variables. It sets the completed records and it sets the total records, which is, you'll notice over here that this is the total records and this is the amount of the completed records. So that's what those variables are recording to. And this is where it gets kind of spicy, which is why there is a giant comment written here. The very short thing is that it sends the container back, but the problem is that it could send a container alone, I think, back to the file. The issue is that we wanted to append the ID that the stuff was actually attached to. We didn't want to just fling back photos to the whole. We didn't want to send photos back to the hosted file without having the idea that the photos are supposed to be attached to, non-attached.
Okay, Margaret. So there we go. So to demonstrate what you just said, click on that one right there.
This one?
Yep, okay. That's the one that matters. Okay, can you zoom in on that? Will let you do that down below down there? So what it's doing is that this is a multi-value dump on via script parameter from the mobile file to the main file. This is the rub. There are 3 values in here, okay? And if all you had was the image, it would send it across and it would automatically encode it and decode it as an image. But since we're including it in a value list, we actually have to turn it into base 64, right? That's essentially what ends up happening here. So we've got the file ID, we got the attribute, the name of the file, and then the third line there is basic, it's, I don't know if you can read that or not. I don't think I can zoom in too much on that, but there are 3 values in here that are essentially the script parameters we're passing. So we did not set a relationship, another one of those big discoveries. We did not set a relationship between the 2 files because we didn't want the files opening each other implicitly, right? The only back and forth between these files is a script that runs. So if you go into define, this is an important thing. Go ahead and hit cancel there for me. Mark, go into define relationships, define database at relationships. Okay, nowhere in here will you see anything that has to do with the main BVA file. If it was in here, then at different times, the local file would try to open the main file on the server. And what if you're out on the runway and you're taking pictures of something and you have no internet access? Oh, well, spin beach ball while blades are turning and it's trying to connect. No bueno. So one of the ways of controlling, that's what we always talk about with performance tuning, is controlling when FileMaker does something like a lot of calcs or something. Trying to control it when it does it. It doesn't do it willy-nilly behind your back is the essential part of the conversation. So by us not having a relationship here and moving the data through relationship, we don't run any risk of it actually opening the other file unless we run a code in a script which tells it to open the other file, right? Mark, you can go ahead and cancel that. Does that make sense what I said? It's an essential discovery here as part of this. This code this line right here will tell FileMaker to go out and open that, run this script 901 from this other file that's on this server, on this other server somewhere. There's some important discoveries in here. So if you're at the point where you're looking at building a mobile app, these are essential things you'll discover along the way. Okay. So then we're looking at the receiving end, right, Margaret? Is that what we do?
This is the 901 that is being called.
So then it runs, it creates a new record, and we start parsing the 3 values, right? So the first value is the first value of the script parameter, and that's the ID work order. Then the second one is it should be the name of the file, right? Isn't that the name of the file?
It's both.
The name of the file and the actual base 64 of the file, right? Exactly. So once again, the short version that's base 64 decode, and it decodes the image, but then it also inserts the name of the file name on it. Because the base 64 image is in position 3 of the value list, and position 2 of that parameter value list is the name of the file, right? So first position is work order, second position is the name of the file, and the third is the base64, which is actually many lines in there, but there's no carriage returns in. It's just a bunch of you've seen base64. It turns an image into a bunch of ASCII characters. Okay. So with that in mind, we write some more log entries. Now, one of the things that we discovered along the way is that because the two files are trusted, we can call the audit, if we're in the mobile file, which we're not right now, but in the other script workspace, if you go back over to that, we can call that right there at that where it says 3101 right there above Margaret's mouse. That is the audit trail that's in the main file on the server, but the main file is not open necessarily. But we can still call it and tell it to run an audit trail for us. So the mobile file is writing audit trails entry into the main file's audit table. Now I've been times and places where this won't work. This gets back into that multiple file solution security where the various files trust each other. By default, when you build a multi-file solution, the files will all trust each other. It's up to you to turn on the extra level of security. To turn that on, just to direct people to the correct place, you go under File, over to Manage, File menu, Manage Security, and then it's the tab, Advanced Settings down below. And then you hit the File Access up there top right. That's where you tell the various files to trust each other, okay? And actually, it looks like they actually are trusted right now. Remember when you said it wasn't on? I think it is on. This would
Well, I
indicate
think we
it's on.
turned it on for testing, and we meant to turn it back off, and then we promptly forgot.
And it's still on, right? Which makes it more secure. So the idea is that someone could swap in their own BVA Documents mobile app to get access. Won't work with this enabled right here. This is how multiple files in a FileMaker solution learn to trust each other through a secret handshake. Literally a secret handshake. Moving along, other questions we have? We're landing the airplane right now. So tomorrow what we're going to do is we're going to go through FileMaker Go. There's a PDF and various documents on the Claris website that talks about limitations of FileMaker Go. We've obviously walked around and discussed and shown you some of the things you're going to run into in FileMaker Go. The problem is going to be that there's other things that, since we're already talking about Go, like at some point we're going to talk about WebDirect, what are the features of Pro that don't translate well to Go? Obviously, there's some things that Go does that Pro doesn't do, like insert from device script step is how you tap the camera and the signature capture and things like that. Signature capture is another great one that the iPhone and iPad does with Go, vastly superior to Pro. But there are a lot of features or things that Pro will do that Go can't, and we're going to walk through that PDF and conversation tomorrow a little bit. So, yep, Top Cat says picked up some items you can use. Thank you very much, Margaret. Yeah, that's the whole point is finding the rough edges, because I've experienced the rough edges, and sharing them with you to save you time, frankly, and money, and making your life easier. And that's the goal. And if folks out there, you have discoveries, you're like, holy cow, and I've worked my way around this, let us know. We're happy to share your tips or tricks. And if it's elaborate enough, we'll even have you come on the show and talk about it. All right, any of the following comments, Margaret, at all? Like that?
Like I was about to mention this because I forgot, but this is kind of an important step because you and I agonized over this for like an hour or two before we figured it out. Um, if you do a file, if you call another script in another file, it'll auto return. Even if you say, I want you to land on this layout, it'll auto return anyway. I'm not entirely sure why, but if you make the script pause, it'll actually stop and realize, oh, we're stopping on a layout in a different file, and it'll pause on the layout. It'll actually process what's happening. So I don't know why that is. I don't know if you have any insight into that. But so you'll see a lot of pauses scattered across the file hopping to make sure that the script actually realizes it's being handed off into another script into another file.
Yeah, the interface either flashes inappropriately or shows the wrong stuff because it's confused. And if you tell FileMaker just to slow down a little bit, then you get a much better user experience. The goal was to minimize flashing so the BVA people don't lose their mind, right? So when the rotor blades and spinning and stuff, they're focused on that. You know what? I'm trying to figure out why their iPhone doesn't work. It's not a good mix. That's got accent written all over it. So, all right, folks, tomorrow we'll pick up the Go conversation, a little more generic in nature. If you have questions about this topic, let us know. Shoot us an email to support@rcconsulting.com. We're going to catch you tomorrow. Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!